Commander Jalen Rourke had always believed that deep space was the quietest place a human could ever stand. No traffic, no noise, no storms, only the soft hum of engines and the steady pulse of life support. But on this day, space felt loud. The alarms on Artemis Reach screamed like living things, and the ship shook as if trying to tear itself apart. The colony ship had traveled for 8 years without incident. It carried 200 humans, all trained, all prepared for the unknown. They had faced meteor strikes, solar flares, and system failures before, but nothing like the gravitational storm that hit without warning. In the center of the ship, red lights spun across the corridors. Pipes burst. Gravity flickered on and off like a faulty lamp. Steam filled the hallways. People ran, shouted, tried to hold the ship together with bare hands and desperate hopes. But Jalen was not running. He was fighting his way toward the danger. He sprinted down the smoking corridor, pushing past fallen panels and sparks raining from the ceiling. His breath came in sharp bursts, and the ship's emergency lights painted him in red flashes. He knew exactly where he needed to go. The Xenobiology Research Bay. That was where Dr. Marrakeen had been working when everything went wrong. Jalen didn't leave people behind. Ever. It was the first rule he lived by. It was the rule that shaped his entire career. The rule that made him stand out among other officers. But this time, the rule felt heavier, sharper, more personal. Because Mara was not just another crew member. She was the heart of the mission and the heart of him. He reached the sealed bulkhead and slammed his hand against the override panel. Jalen cursed under his breath. The gravitational storm had torn a hole through part of the research area. If the lockdown opened, the entire section could collapse into space. That was why the computer refused to let him in. But he didn't care. He grabbed the emergency crank and turned it with all his strength. The metal screeched in protest. Sweat ran down his neck, mixing with soot. After several violent turns, the lock gave way, and the door slid open just enough for him to slip through. A wave of dust and cold air hit him instantly. Inside, the research bay looked like a war zone. Screens were shattered. Tables were flipped. Papers floated in the flickering gravity. The far wall was cracked open, sealed only by a trembling force field that hummed with fading power. "Mara!" he shouted, stepping over a broken light fixture. No answer. His heart hammered painfully. He moved deeper into the bay, scanning through the smoke. Then he saw her. Dr. Marrakeen lay half-trapped under a fallen support beam. Her blonde hair was streaked with dust, and one side of her suit was torn open. She was conscious, but barely. Her breaths came shallow and uneven. Her eyes fluttered when she heard him. "Jalen?" Her voice was thin. He rushed to her side and knelt beside her. He checked her vitals quickly, weak pulse, dropping oxygen levels, but alive. "I'm here," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I've got you." She gave a small, painful smile. "You came." "Of course I did," he answered. "Hold on." He tried to lift the beam, but it was heavier than it looked. His muscles strained, and his arms shook. The gravity flickered again, making the beam shift dangerously. Don't hurt yourself," Mara said softly. "Too late," he grunted, trying again. "I'm already hurting." He pushed with everything he had, his vision blurred from the effort. Slowly, the beam rose just enough for Mara to slide her leg free. She gasped in pain but nodded that she could move. He pulled her up carefully, supporting her weight. The ship shook again, harder this time. The force field at the broken wall flickered, sending a blast of cold wind into the room. "We need to get out. Now," Jalen said. Mara leaned on him as they staggered toward the door. But halfway there, the ship's automated voice echoed through the bay. "Warning. Hull breach deepening. Section collapse imminent." Jalen's stomach dropped. The bay wasn't going to last. He picked Mara up in both arms. "Jalen, no," she whispered. "I can walk." "You don't have to," he replied. Another tremor rocked the room. Loose metal rained from the ceiling. The force field flickered a final time, then died. A roaring vacuum tore through the crack in the wall. Air exploded outward. Papers, tools, crates, all sucked into the void. Jalen felt the pull drag at his clothes, at Mara's body. At his very breath, he tightened his grip and leaned forward, forcing each step. The air roared in his ears. His eyes watered from the pressure. He felt himself sliding backward, but he kept going. The door was only 10 meters away. 8 meters. 5. His foot slipped. The vacuum yanked him back. Mara cried out as they skidded across the floor toward the open void. Jalen slammed his hand onto a floor rung an emergency hold. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he didn't let go. "Jalen!" Mara shouted over the storm. "I've got you," he yelled back, tightening his hold on her. He used the rung to pull them forward, one agonizing movement at a time. His arms burned. His lungs screamed. The ship shuddered around them. 3 meters. 2. He reached the doorframe and shoved Mara through the narrow gap first. Once she was clear, he threw himself forward, letting the vacuum take one last tug before he crashed into the corridor. The door slammed shut behind them. Silence. Just the distant howl of alarms and the dim glow of red lights. Jalen lay on the floor, gasping. Mara lay beside him, clutching his sleeve with trembling fingers. Their hair was messy, their faces streaked with smoke, their suits damaged, but they were alive. Mara looked at him through half-closed eyes. "You always do the impossible." He let out a breathless laugh. "I'm not done yet." She frowned weakly. "What do you mean?" Jalen helped her sit up. "The rest of the ship is failing. The gravitational storm knocked us off course, and half the escape pods are gone." Mara's eyes widened slightly. She had known things were bad, but not this bad. "We need to get to the command deck," he continued. "The crew needs direction. And we may have to land on the nearest object in the system. A station. A moon. Anything." Mara nodded slowly. "Then let's go." When she tried to stand, her leg buckled. Jalen caught her instantly. "I'm fine," she said. "You're not," he replied gently. "Lean on me." She did. They began moving down the corridor together, one step at a time. Both injured, both exhausted, but refusing to stop. What Jalen didn't know was that across the stars, several alien species were watching the events unfold through ancient monitoring systems. They saw the ship, the damage, the chaos, and they saw one human risk everything for one life. They didn't understand it. No other species would do something so illogical, so emotional, so human. But Jalen didn't care about what others understood. He only cared about the person leaning against his side, holding on with quiet trust. He held her hand as they walked, steadying her. And in that moment, despite the alarms, the danger, the darkness closing in, he felt something calm inside him. A certainty. He would get her to safety. He would get everyone to safety, no matter the cost. Because that was what humans did. And because losing her was not an option. The corridors of Artemis Reach felt longer than ever, as Commander Jalen Rourke helped Dr. Mara Keen toward the command deck. The ship groaned around them like a giant creature in pain. Pipes hissed. Sparks jumped from broken control panels. Every few minutes, the gravity flickered, making them stumble and cling to the walls for balance. Jalen kept one arm around Mara, steadying her. Her injured leg dragged slightly, and every few steps she winced. She tried to hide it, but Jalen noticed everything. "If it gets worse, tell me," he said gently. "It's already worse," she answered, but there was a small smile on her face. "But I'm still walking." He squeezed her hand. "Good. Don't stop." They moved carefully around a collapsed ceiling beam. Smoke curled through the air. The lights overhead flickered from white to red to complete darkness before the backup power kicked in again. "Feels like the ship is being torn apart piece by piece," Mara whispered. "It is," Jalen replied. "But we're still alive. That's what matters." They continued forward, a crew in fear. When they reached the command deck, the automatic doors slid open only halfway. Jalen shoved them apart and guided Mara through. Inside, the room was chaotic. Officers were rushing between consoles. Captain Isha Moreau stood at the center, shouting orders over the noise. Several screens showed different views of the gravitational storm swirling outside the ship, a massive blue vortex twisting like a living hurricane in space. The moment the crew saw Jalen and Mara, Relief washed across their faces. People had feared the worst. Captain Moreau stepped toward them, her usually calm face tight with worry. "Dr. Keene, Commander. Thank heaven you're alive." "We had a rough time," Jalen said. "But she's safe." Mara nodded. "Still here." Moreau placed a hand on Jalen's shoulder. "Good work." Then her voice hardened. "We need you both. The ship is losing power across multiple decks. Navigation is barely functioning. The storm pushed us into an unknown system." "I himself." Jalen frowned. "Unknown? There was nothing on the star maps." "I know," Moreau replied. "But sensors show something. A structure. Very large. Station-like." Mara's eyes widened. "A megastructure? Possibly," the captain said. "But we don't know who built it or if it's safe." An officer called out, "Captain, hull stress at critical levels. We can't stay in the storm much longer." Everyone fell silent. Jalen stepped toward the screens. The massive object floated near the edge of the storm. Its shape was strange, circular, but layered, like a giant ring wrapped around a glowing core. Parts of it looked broken or dim, as if it had been abandoned for centuries. If they didn't land soon, the storm would tear the ship apart. "We don't have a choice," Jalen said quietly. "We head for the structure." Quote. Moreau nodded. "That's what I thought." Mara looked uncertain. "We should be careful. It could be dangerous." "It's dangerous here too," Jalen said softly. "At least the structure looks stable." Mara didn't argue. She trusted Jalen's judgment. The Watchers. What the humans didn't know was that across the stars, ancient monitoring systems had activated. Species older than humanity watched through hidden sensors. One group, known as the Axiom Collective, studied emotionless logic. To them, survival meant efficiency. And efficiency meant sacrifice. If one member of a crew was injured, the logical action was to leave them behind. Humans confused them. The Watchers whispered among themselves, silent voices echoing through hidden chambers. Why risk everything for one life? Why walk into danger for another? What purpose does this serve? They had no answers, but they watched with increasing curiosity. The approach. Back on Artemis Reach, Jalen stood behind the pilot's chair. "Bring us closer," he said. The pilot, Elias Tan, nodded nervously. "Aye, Commander." The ship trembled as it moved through the last edge of the storm. Sparks flew from the navigation consoles. The engines roared under strain. The megastructure grew larger on the screen. Up close, it was breathtaking. The outer ring stretched kilometers across. Strange symbols lined its metallic surface. Some lights flickered weakly. Others were dark. The central core glowed faintly, with a soft green hue that pulsed like a heartbeat. Mara leaned forward. "It's beautiful. And alien," Jalen added. "Captain," Elias called. "I'm detecting an energy signal inside. Active but weak. Maybe a power source." Quote. "Can we dock?" Moreau asked. Elias swallowed. "The docking arms look damaged. But I think we can land on one of the stable platforms." "Do it," the captain said. "Prepare for impact." The ship lurched violently as it descended toward the station. Some officers gripped their chairs tightly. Mara clung to Jalen. He held her steady. "Almost there," Elias muttered. With a heavy thud, Artemis Reach landed. Silence followed. The storm's roar faded. For the first time in hours, there was stillness. The crew let out shaky breaths. "We made it," Mara whispered. "For now," Jalen replied. A strange arrival. A landing team was prepared immediately. Jalen and Mara were part of it, along with 2 engineers and 3 security officers. Jalen insisted Mara shouldn't join. "Your leg is attached," she said firmly. "And I'm the xenobiologist. You need me." Jalen couldn't argue with that. They exited through the airlock. The alien station was quiet, too quiet. The floor was metal but oddly smooth, almost like glass. Strange blue lines ran through it, glowing faintly as the humans stepped on them. Mara scanned the structures with her handheld device. "This tech, it's nothing like our own." One engineer, Haru Imani, touched a panel. Feels warm, like it's alive. Jalen raised a hand. Careful. We don't know what triggers what. As they moved deeper into the station, lights flickered on overhead one by one, forming a glowing path in front of them. It's activating because of us, Mara whispered. Or leading us somewhere, Jalen said. The envoy. Suddenly, a soft hum filled the air. The lights in the chamber shifted. A column of green energy rose from the floor, swirling gently. A figure began to form inside, shaped like a person but made entirely of shimmering light. The humans froze. The figure spoke in a calm, echoing voice. You should not be here. This station is unstable. Everyone took a step back. Weapons shook slightly in nervous hands. Jalen stayed still. Are you the builder of this station? I am an envoy, the being said. A projection from a distant location. Mara stepped forward despite Jalen's protective hand. We came because our ship is damaged. We need help. The envoy tilted its head. Humans. We have observed you. Your actions are unusual. Jalen narrowed his eyes. Unusual how? You protect injured individuals, even when it reduces your survival chances. You risk yourselves for emotional reasons. This behavior is inefficient, and yet, this inefficiency has kept you alive. Mara whispered. They've been watching us. The envoy's voice softened. Your ship is failing. This station can help you repair it. But it is collapsing as well. It needs stabilization. Without it, both the station and your vessel will be lost. Captain Moreau's voice crackled through Jalen's comm. Commander, we need that station operational. The storm damaged our reactors. Jalen looked at the envoy. What do we need to do? The envoy hesitated. Our technology is ancient. It requires a mind, a willing mind, one that can interface with the station's core. But the connection is painful, dangerous. No species has volunteered in thousands of years. The humans exchanged nervous looks. Mara stepped closer. If someone doesn't do it, everything will collapse? Yes. Jalen took a breath. Then I'll do it. Mara grabbed his arm. Jalen, no. He turned to her gently. I told you I'm not done yet. Her eyes filled with worry. You don't know what it will do to you. Doesn't matter, he said. If it saves the crew, if it saves you. He looked at the envoy. Take me to the core. The being of light nodded slowly. Very well. Humanity continues to surprise us. Mara held Jalen's hand tightly. Come back. Please. He squeezed her hand one last time. I will. Then he let go. The core chamber of the alien megastructure felt unlike anything Jalen Rourke had ever seen. The walls were made of smooth silver metal, curved like the inside of a giant sphere. Thin streams of green light flowed across the floor like rivers. The air hummed with a soft vibration that resonated deep in his chest. The envoy of light hovered beside him, glowing brighter than before. This station is old, it said. It is alive in a way your kind may not understand. It needs a mind with strong will, a steady heart, a spirit that does not break under pressure. Jalen took a breath. And if I fail? The envoy answered without hesitation. Then the station collapses. And so does your ship. Jalen nodded. He had expected that. Behind him, the landing team stood near the entrance. Mara Keene kept her eyes locked on Jalen. Her injured leg shook, but she refused to sit down. She refused to look away. Jalen gave her a small smile. She tried to smile back, but fear made it tremble. Come back, she whispered. Please. I will, he said. He turned toward the glowing platform at the center of the chamber. The green energy pulsed slowly, like a giant heartbeat. The envoy gestured. Step onto the core link. Jalen stepped forward. The connection. The moment his boot touched the platform, the energy shifted, rising in gentle waves around him. It did not hurt at first. It felt almost warm, almost comforting. But then the warmth grew sharper. The waves wrapped around his body, crawling over his arms, chest, neck, and head. They lifted him an inch off the ground. His muscles tightened. His vision blurred. Mara shouted from the other side of the room. "Jalen!" He could barely hear her. The envoy raised a hand. He must not be interrupted. Jalen gritted his teeth as the energy sank into his mind. Images flashed before his eyes. Memories, fears, hopes, everything tangled together. He saw the years of training, the missions he survived, the crew he had protected, the sacrifices he made, and he saw Mara, her smile, her determination, the quiet strength she always carried with her. The bond between them pushed back the fear. He whispered to himself, "I will not break." The station responded to his voice. The chamber brightened. Panels across the walls lit up one by one. The streams of green light rushed toward the center, converging around him. Now the pain came. A burning pressure filled his skull. It felt like the station was trying to read every thought he ever had. His breathing turned shaky. His hands tightened into fists. He forced himself to stay conscious. He thought about the crew, about their faces, about the hope they carried when they boarded Artemis Reach. They were his responsibility. They always had been. He wasn't going to fail them now. The repair. Across the ship, the crew watched as the megastructure came alive. Screens showed the outer rings lighting up like a giant circuit board. Energy flowed through damaged sections. Long-dead systems roared quietly back to life. Captain Moreau stared at the glowing station and whispered, "What is he doing to that thing?" Engineer Haru, who was inside the station with Mara, answered through the comm. "He's becoming the operator, the bridge between human will and alien technology." Back in the core chamber, Mara stepped closer despite the envoy's warning. "Jalen, can you hear me?" Jalen's eyes were shut tight, his face twisted with pain. But he whispered, barely audible. Yes, that was enough for her. She moved even closer. "You're not alone. I'm right here." Jalen felt her words through the energy connection. They grounded him. They gave him something solid to hold on to. The envoy watched quietly. "This is unusual. Your emotional link strengthens his stability." "That's what humans do," Mara replied without looking away. The envoy tilted its head. "So it seems." Light exploded across the chamber. The station released a deep pulse that shook the air. Jalen gasped as more energy poured into him, pushing him to the edge of his endurance, but he did not let go. Slowly, very slowly, the shaking stopped. The energy quieted. The hum softened. The station stabilized. The envoy turned toward Mara. "It is done." She rushed forward as the energy around Jalen lowered him back onto the platform. His legs buckled. Mara caught him before he fell completely. Wrapping her arms around him, he opened his eyes weakly. "Hey," he whispered. She let out a half sob, half laugh. "You idiot. You scared me." "You scare easily," he joked, voice barely steady. She shook her head. "Never do that again. No promises." She squeezed his hand tightly. He squeezed back. A new alliance. The envoy approached them slowly. "You have repaired what no other species could repair. You have done this at great personal risk. Humanity has earned the respect of our collective." "Why?" Mara asked. The envoy's voice softened. "Because you choose to save others, even when logic says you should not. You choose connection, compassion, sacrifice. These qualities are rare in the universe." Jalen stood straighter even though his legs still trembled. "Will you help our ship?" "Yes," the envoy replied. "The station now has power. We will transfer energy to your vessel and stabilize its systems." Mara helped Jalen walk toward the landing platform. He leaned on her, not out of weakness, but because she was there, and because she wanted to hold him. The envoy continued speaking. "We will also share knowledge with your species. Carefully. Your emotions make you unpredictable, but also fascinating." Mara smiled slightly. "We'll do our best not to disappoint you." "We believe you will not," the envoy said. "Goodbye, humans. Your actions today will be remembered." Like mist caught in a breeze, the being of light faded out of existence. A quiet moment. Back on Artemis Reach, the damage began to repair itself as the station's energy flowed into the ship. Lights brightened. Engines stabilized. Life support systems hummed back to normal. Captain Moreau's voice filled the ship. "Attention, crew. We are safe. Thanks to Commander Rourke and the station he helped restore, our ship is operational again. Prepare for departure." Cheering erupted across multiple decks. In the medbay, Mara helped Jalen lie down on a soft bed. His head still hurt, and his muscles felt like they were filled with sand. But he was alive. Mara sat beside him, brushing dust from his hair. "You shouldn't have volunteered alone." He looked at her with tired eyes. "I wasn't alone." She blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "You were there," he said softly. "You kept me anchored." Her throat tightened. "Jalen." He reached for her hand. She squeezed it gently. He smiled, weak but warm. "This moment," he said, "makes all the pain worth it." She leaned her forehead against his. "Yes, it does." Outside the window, the ancient station glowed like a guardian watching over them. The crew prepared the ship for a fresh course, ready to continue their journey into the unknown. And somewhere in the wide universe, alien observers recorded what they had witnessed. A human who risked everything for his people. A bond strong enough to stabilize a dying megastructure. A choice that defined a species. Humanity had earned a place among the stars, not through strength, or power, or weapons, but through the simple act of holding someone's hand and refusing to let go.